Welcome to episode 61 of the Half Point Per podcast. I am your host, Evan Riggs, joined as always by my co-host, Dalton the Willie, and producer, Johnny Pham. Dalton, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing absolutely superb because in a meaningless Week 18 game, Antonio Gibson rushed for over 110 yards, which means I came out
And
as the
unfortunately, Big
winner.
Ben did not throw for 500 and whatever yards in the rain in his 13-10 win or whatever the score
Even
was.
in an overtime game, he couldn't quite get you there.
I think Ben would have needed about 7 more overtimes to come anywhere close.
But this is officially a Antonio Gibson Stan podcast. He won me the prop bets by doing his job and beating the absolute tragedy that is the New York Giants.
This is true. This is unfortunate on my end, but I'll take the loss. We'll learn from it. We'll come back better next year. Johnny, how you doing?
Doing great, better than the Chargers. I'm sure they really wanted to tie, and I'm sure a lot of America did because that was quite the game to watch and just a lot of questionable decision making. But that was quite the treat to watch on a Sunday night.
You know, I can only hope to be as accurate on these NFL playoff predictions as the Chargers on fourth down. However, I hope my end result is a little bit better than the Chargers. It's almost impossible to what were they 5 of 6, 6 for 7, and then they lose the game on fourth down. They have that many that they get, and they lose the game still.
Yeah, and every fourth down opportunity they had, it was like 4th and 10. They weren't like 4th and 2 or 4th and 4. It felt like every single one was like 4th and 10.
And the one that was 4th and short, they decide the Raiders literally stacked the box with like 10 guys and like, okay, Eckler's had a good year. I like Eckler. Even Eckler's biggest fans would probably be like, hey, straight up the gut with 10 guys in the box. Like that might not, like, maybe just put it in Justin Herbert's hands if you're going to go for it on your own 18-yard line.
I like the call with Eckler.
I do not, and process bears that one out. I think he lost like 2 yards on 4th and 1, so that was not a ton of fun. But we've got a fun show today. This is our first non-fantasy football related show in quite some time. Definitely this season, obviously. We've got a nice little playoff preview. Obviously, the NFL playoffs are coming up this weekend. Are probably one of the most exciting football weekends of the whole year, quite frankly. You've got 3 games on Saturday, or is it 2 games? I think 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. I can't keep track. But then the Monday night game is throwing me off whack. We've got a lot of games. That's all I know. We've got a lot of games this weekend. I think all of them but one, Chiefs and Steelers. And like I'm excited for that game because I'm a Chiefs fan, but I'm more excited as a fan for the other 5 games, quite frankly. So I think we've got potential for some pretty good matchups. But before we jump in the predictions, and what we're going to do when we get to that point is we're going to pick it straight up and we're going to try our luck against the spread picks, because we've done so well gambling, player props, team props, all that. We've done so brilliantly that we're going to extend the gambling even deep into the playoffs. And we're even going to foolishly keep track of our records. So yeah, great decisions on our part. But before we do that, Dalton, you had the idea of doing an NFL playoff tier list. And for anybody who doesn't watch Twitch streamers or YouTube streamers, you may not really know what it is. But basically, we're just taking all of the NFL teams and dividing them up into 4 categories, all the playoff teams. Needs help, which in my mind means they need to be the Browns last year where, hey, Patrick Mahomes got hurt. This is your big break. This is your chance. A team like that. You've got the threats, like the Bills last year. The Bills hadn't been there yet, but they were very good. They were a legit threat. And then you've got the contenders, like Packers, Bucks, clear contenders last year. And then entering the playoffs last year, favorites, and that would have probably been the Chiefs were the lone big favorite last year. So those are the 4 categories. For those of you on the YouTube, whether you're on right now, you jump on, or if you go back and watch, we will share that so you can actually just follow along that way, and it's easier to keep track of. I need to share just a tab. StreamYard Mix is so confusing. Okay, everybody see that? We good?
We can see it.
As you see, we've got all the teams out of the playoffs. We'll start with the top seed in the AFC, the Tennessee Titans, one of the only teams we're not going to be talking about this week. What tier should the Titans go in, Dalton?
I feel like this is like one of those you're out of pocket for this take, but I definitely don't think they're a favorite. I
No.
really don't think they're a contender. I want to put them in the threats category. I just feel like they need a lot to happen in their game. They beat up on bad teams all year. They almost lost to the Texans to end the season. They almost lost to the Texans the first time they played.
Well, and they won just a lot of close games down the stretch too.
Yeah,
and that was obviously without Derrick Henry, so that have to keep that in mind too. But still,
yeah. Well, and my other concern is how they're going to if they give him all every down work in his first game back, and he's not 100% there.
Yeah, and just how he looks. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, maybe it's a little out of pocket, but I feel like their record. I just don't feel like they're one of the best teams in the AFC. So I have them as a threat.
No, I agree with you, Johnny. Do you have a different opinion on where they should be?
I mean, I think they are a threat, but the way that Dalton just described them made it sound like they should be in the need help category.
Hey, but here's the thing. Here's what I was gonna say. If Derrick Henry was not coming back for the playoffs, they would be in the needs help category.
They would be,
yeah.
As the number 1 seed. I can't dismiss Henry. Like I'm done disrespecting Derrick Henry. I'm gonna put him in the threats just because I'm a little bit afraid of Derrick Henry. But yeah, I mean, that kind of shows you how much the Chiefs not getting the number 1 seed in the AFC kind of screwed up the matchup and the balance of power. Because I think unless you get the Raiders or the Steelers winning, I think any of those other teams I would pick to beat the Titans in the second round.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't know how important home field advantage is for them. I don't think it's a very beneficial. Like some other teams, like Lambeau is a crazy place to travel to. I don't really think Nissan is a crazy place to travel to.
So the Packers, we'll start with the other 1 seed who we will not be talking about after this on the show. I'm going with, I think they're a contender. I'm not sure I don't know. I'm struggling between them and the Bucs as to which NFC team I want to put in the favorites. I think I'm going to put Green Bay at contender status because they have so many important pieces coming back, which is obviously great. Those guys are coming back on defense, but it's kind of like the Derrick Henry thing where it's like we don't know what kind of game shape those guys are going to be in, how they're going to look. And like that defense just to me has been suspect, and obviously they've got a lot of their best guys banged up, so there's a reason why for that. But I'm not sure I trust their defense totally. And in a playoff setting, their offense still makes me a little bit nervous. If you take away Davante Adams, what happens? If you at least make it tough on Davante Adams.
Yeah, well, we saw that the game they played bereft Baltimore secondary. The Green Bay Packers still struggled to win that game. I mean, they get Jaire Alexander back, but I don't know what kind of health he's going to be in. The bye certainly helps. And I mean, just for that matter, I question LaFleur's decision-making. Everybody remembers last season.
Yeah, I think after last year, it's fair.
Yeah, they kicked a field goal instead of going for a touchdown, which would have won them the game with the MVP candidate. So definitely a contender. They're still a very scary team. The entire NFC is very hard to parse out. I think there's a lot more parity in the NFC than the AFC this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the NFC is definitely tough. Johnny, any difference of opinion on the Packers? All right, now we can start kind of motoring through these because we're going to touch on all of these teams as we go. The Bucs, I think they should be in the favorite category. They're defending champs. I know they have a couple injuries, but they've probably kind of been sleepwalking through the last part of the season a little bit. And
it's Tom Brady.
It's Tom Brady. Like I think they've earned that, and he especially obviously has earned that at this point. Any disagreements?
No, I don't disagree with that at all.
The Niners are interesting. They're obviously a team that we bet big on in our mitten that we did a couple weeks ago on the show. I think I'm going to just stick with threats, but I'm really on the border of contenders and threats. Jimmy Garoppolo is dragging them down for me.
I think they're a contender for me, as they got all their weapons back. Deebo Samuel's playing at an elite level.
Mm-hmm.
And the way their weapons play just gives them so much yak that Garoppolo has to be like average, just like in their run 2 years ago to the Super Bowl. And their defense is coming back around. Really, their only concern is that cornerback. But I have them as a contender.
Johnny?
I would kind of agree with Dalton too. I think they
All
should
right.
be in the contender.
The Bengals.
I mean, they're a threat. They have a stout offense and a very suspect defense. I mean, their offensive line is so incredibly putrid that
See
I
that,
question.
and that's what's holding him back. As I think the way they do things was like a perfect matchup against the Chiefs and the way they like to play. And obviously, the Chiefs don't have like elite corners. If you get a team where their front four bullies that offensive line and they're not going to blitz like the Chiefs do, I think that could spell trouble and just such a clear flaw like that. And plus, it kind of is like the Browns is the Browns line from last year. It's like this franchise has never done anything in the playoffs in my whole life. And as dumb as that sounds, like I kind of need the Bengals to prove it to me. And obviously,
Yeah.
none of these guys on this team have ever been in the playoffs, really.
Yeah, I do think the Titans would beat them in a head-to-head because the Titans match up well against them, but I still think they have enough weapons on offense that they're explosive, but I think they're just lacking in enough areas. They're not any more than a threat.
So we're going with threat. How about the Cowboys? The Niners' first round opponent.
This team is incredibly hard for me to figure out. They played a rush defense for half the year. They played a pass defense. Inevitably, I just think they're a threat in the NFC. I mean, I think Diggs has gotten a little overhyped. The reason he gets all those picks is because he jumps routes. He's also 8th in the NFL in yards given up among
I was going to
quarterbacks.
say, yeah, if you look past the interceptions, he's not like a great cornerback in the NFL, but he makes the plays that the average fan sees, obviously, a lot.
Yeah, Dallas is a good defensive line, but Dak still is prone to mistakes. I mean, they're a threat, but it's going to be tough for them to go further. I don't know how you guys feel on them.
I think that's kind of where I'm at too, and it's tough saying that because I really I believe in their defense. It's crazy, 3 months ago, who would have ever thought that it would have been the offense that's giving me more pause on this team? But I'm going with the threat. Unless Johnny, do you feel any differently?
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll say is I'd feel differently if they weren't giving Zeke 18 touches a game. And I don't mean that as to be mean to Zeke, but they're just better weapons from Amari Cooper to CD that they should be involving in their game plan at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you were to rank starting running backs in the playoffs, he doesn't rank that high. He does not rank that high, and it's not like all of the best running backs in the NFL are in the playoffs by any means.
Yep.
The Rams. I'm not putting the Rams above threat either. And the threat category is getting big, but Matthew Stafford's pick down the sideline last week is all I need to know about this team. They have everything you need to win a Super Bowl, but you don't just have it's not like they're having to overcome a game manager quarterback. They're having to overcome a quarterback who is just going to make mistakes in these big games. He just is until he proves otherwise. That's just what I believe.
All I need to know, and Ben Baldwin's been on this all season. Highly recommend him. He's Ben Baldwin.
The Jared Goff versus Matthew Stafford chart.
In multiple ways, Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff 2 years ago, not last year for those listening. Have had very similar seasons. EPA, pass block percentage, and how successful they are in pass blocking. And that's all I need to know is the Rams are reliant on Matthew Stafford to be good or to be great. I'm sorry. And he's just good. He's just good. That's all he is. And I mean, they're Cam Akers coming back. Nothing changes it for me. They just don't have it. I don't see it.
Yeah, it's do I really believe in Sony Michel? When the chips are down, I'm not sure if Sony Michel is elevating them. It seems like he's the caliber of back who he can look good, but he looks good when the team is looking good. He's not elevating the team to look
good. Maybe I'm a bit of a hater because I didn't call it, but I'm still not a believer that Cooper Kupp is an ultra talented wide receiver. I still question that.
Okay, the Chiefs. I think we can be pretty quick on this one. I think we all think they're in the favorite category. The Eagles. I also think we could probably be pretty quick on this one. They need some help, right? They're playing the Bucs, and even if they weren't, they need something to go right in that first game, and no matter who they're playing in the NFC, I think to win it. Same with the Steelers.
I mean, I'm not going to say confidently, but we could just move the Steelers to out if we really wanted to.
Nope, we're not going to do that yet. I think the Raiders. I think they'd probably be the needs help too, right?
Yeah.
Although with that matchup, I mean, those two defensive ends, Ngakoue and Max Crosby, like that could be their help right there as the Bengals' offensive line just collapses.
Yes, I do think we'll talk more about that later. I think
the Cardinals are an interesting team. Started off so well, have been the classic Cliff Kingsbury, even clear back to Texas Tech profile of sputtering down the stretch. They did beat the Cowboys pretty recently on the road and then lost to the Seahawks, who I guess their incentive to win was to make the Jamal Adams trade look just a little bit less terrible with the draft pick. I think the Cardinals have struggled enough where you've got to just probably stick them in the threat category, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean their pass offense since Hopkins has been out has been pretty subpar,
and he's not playing this week.
Yeah, and just like the loss with the Chiefs to the Bengals, that loss to that win against the Cowboys was pretty improbable in a lot of metrics for the Cardinals. They had no business winning that game, and Kyler Murray has been less than spectacular the second half of the season. They just need so many things to go their way.
The Bills, I think I would stick them pretty firmly in the contender category. I think if you're ranking the AFC teams, they're a pretty firm number 2 behind the Chiefs in my mind. Any disagreements there?
No, I think that's 100% correct. There's still something about them that I have a apprehension about, which is why they're not a favorite, but they're definitely the second best team in the AFC.
Patriots, last one.
I mean, I'm just going to put them in needs help. I know, like,
really,
I mean, show me it. They're not going to win a game running the ball 30 times a game. They're going to need Mac Jones to show up and play a game that I haven't seen him play against a playoff caliber opponent. He's going to have to do it in Buffalo. Their help is going to be their defense really carries them, and Mac Jones has to do the minimum, and that's why I would throw him the minimum.
Well, their help could potentially be the cold weather. It could hurt Mac Jones too, but the cold weather slows down the Bills' offense just like it did when they played in Buffalo last time. It was more the wind than the cold weather, and the Patriots are more built as a team to play in that type of game than the Bills. But I think I'd agree.
3 AFC teams made them needs help category.
Well, and that's just honestly, that's just a factor that just shows you the Raiders and the Steelers. I would still rank them as like the 9th and 10th best teams in the AFC, but they made the playoffs because the Steelers won every close game, and the Raiders, I mean, gotta give them credit. They after the Chiefs smoked them. I thought they were done, but they actually rallied down the stretch and made it. But I think the Chargers are better. I think the Colts are better, and if the Ravens weren't like a catastrophe of a roster, like even if they just had Lamar Jackson and nobody else healthy down the stretch, like they're in the playoffs too, I think.
Where would you put the Colts and the Chargers, the 2 teams that lost out on Sunday? I think I'd put
the Chargers would have been my top threat in the AFC easily.
Yeah.
And then the Colts, I think, would have been in the needs help category because Carson Wentz is their quarterback.
Yep. I agree with those both. Yeah, that's where I would have put them. Just curious. And then if the Ravens were in, I probably would have them in contenders with a healthy Lamar.
I think I just have them as a threat because the rest of their roster is so banged up.
So depleted, yeah.
It's probably for the best for them. They're going to have a good draft pick, and they'll probably be awesome next year if their guys are healthy.
Yeah.
All right, let me figure out how to stop sharing here. And we can move on to the playoffs. I think I just put these down in order of when these games are. Don't have the times in front of me, but I think that's how it was listed on FanDuel. So first game, Raiders at Bengals. The spread is Bengals -5.5, which that's a little bit bigger than I thought, but I guess we'll see here with you guys' picks. You guys wrote your picks in the doc, but I'll switch it. I'll let Johnny start us off here. Johnny, who are you going with straight up? Who are you going with against the spread?
Bengals straight up, and then Bengals to cover 5.5.
Okay, Dalton.
Yeah, I went same as Johnny. Bengals straight up, Bengals to cover. Reason is Raiders played basically a 5-quarter game in Las Vegas. Have to travel in basically 6 days to play the Bengals at their stadium. And I'm obviously the weather guy here. And Derek Carr has just done absolutely god awful in games outside. His EPA per play drops down to like negative 4.2 or something. In cold weather, Derek Carr is just not a gamer. And the only way they win the game is by Derek Carr being a gamer. That or their defensive line completely shuts down Joe Burrow for two halves, which I don't see happening. I don't think this game is going to be a pretty game. I don't think there's going to be a lot of flair. The only thing that might give me pause on betting the Bengals is I'm still not 100% Joe Burrow's ankle is good, but that is what it is. I still think they'll come out and be the better team.
So just because I was curious, I remember we were making this art just like fans, maybe not like us, but just the collective it was easy to not feel great about the Raiders' weapons heading into week 2, which I don't know like what they did fantasy-wise. They played basically 5 quarters against the Ravens in Vegas and then went across the country to Pittsburgh and played a Sunday noon slate game. They actually won that game on the road by 9 points. So it can be done. I'm taking the Bengals straight up. I think they're the better team. But if I'm getting 5.5 points, man, I think I'm taking the Raiders to
too
cover.
Many points?
To cover. It's too many points. I think Josh Jacobs, and you mentioned Derek Carr, I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a nice game and is going to keep them in the game. I mean, they finally have Darren Waller back. I know he didn't do that much the other day. I think Derwin James is a very big reason why. I think Waller, I don't think the Bengals have any answer for Waller. It could be another 19 target type of game for Waller. And I think Waller and Jacobs are enough to move the ball and keep him competitive offensively. And then, I think they can actually cause some problems because they don't blitz very much. And that pass rush, if it's getting home, it could be a problem for the Bengals.
Well, I do know I'll be cheering for the Raiders. I would like to see them advance in the playoffs as far as to play Kansas City. I really do just think that overtime game and traveling is going to hurt them, and that's my biggest concern. And then it's Derek Carr. It's just at the end of the day, it's Derek Carr, and I can't trust him for much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not trusting the win. I'm just trusting him, and more specifically, some of the other good players on his team to get me this cover. And plus, I've got to be a little different from you guys. We can't just have a straight agreement.
That's fair.
All right, Patriots at Bills. This one's Bills -4. So straight up, I'm taking the Bills. We put them in the contender category for a reason, even though I've said they are one of the toughest teams. You can't really trust anybody this year, really. We've seen that over and over again. So I don't want to hold it against the Bills too much, but you really cannot trust the Bills. They beat the Chiefs by 3 possessions 1 week. And then was it a week later, 2 weeks later? It was very, very close. They lose the Jaguars 9-6.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the Jekyll and Hyde team they've been. And Josh Allen's been very Jekyll and Hyde. I know week 17, the championship week, he had a good fantasy week, but he threw for 90 yards. He rushed for 2 touchdowns. That was the fantasy goodness that came out of that game. So I'm a little bit nervous about trusting them. I'm a little bit nervous about Belichick getting a third shot and getting a third time to scheme up a defense for Josh Allen. But I just think the Bills have more talent than the Patriots. That's what it comes down to.
I agree with you. And my concern is the Bills have been pretty rigid when it comes to their offensive philosophy, which is throw. Mm-hmm. Week 1, against the Steelers were putting 3 men in the box because the Bills would just go 5 wide at receiver over and over again. And you just can't give a defensive-minded coach like Belichick that. They have to give a little more bend. I just give the edge at quarterback, which same with you. I'm picking the Bills straight up to win this game. But I think it's going to be an ugly game.
Yeah, and I've got the Patriots covering. It'd be +4 for the Pats. And, we mentioned the weather potentially being a bugaboo earlier. Had the tweet that I sent you guys before we jumped on, Josh Allen saying that, he doesn't have the best circulation. So the bad weather could is kind of a pain in the butt for him, basically. It's that's not something I'd love to hear if I'm a Bills fan.
I know. Well, and I have Patriots +4 as well. I think they keep it close just because their defense is so good. And the other fact, though, Mac Jones also doesn't play well in cold weather. He said he doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. So funny coming from the guy who's New England's future cornerstone of their franchise. But
yes, but was from Alabama before this, so he wasn't exactly getting 20 degrees,
Yeah.
snowstorms in Alabama.
But like I said earlier, there's just something I can't put my finger on. The Bucks seem like they have it all, but every game there's just something you can't. They're missing, and it's probably quarterback. Josh Allen just isn't quite there when it comes to elite quarterback play, like some other guys are, like a Mahomes or a Wilson or Drew Brees in the past. And that's probably the edge, and that's why I think the Patriots do cover +4. They are a solid football unit.
I'm not going to pretend to have watched the Bills as closely as the Chiefs, or like watched like the film breakdowns of Josh Allen and the Bills like I have the Chiefs and Mahomes. But it seems to me, just like when I watch the Bills and I watch them struggle, when Josh Allen struggles, it like he's a physical freak, but I'm just not sure like mentally. I'm not sure he's able to make those adjustments like mid-game as well as like a Mahomes or obviously a Brady. Like he's not like that top tier or even like that second tier of like I'm gonna beat you with my mind. Like I just don't quite have that confidence in him in that regard. Johnny, who are you taking in this game against the spread straight up?
Straight up Bills, and then Bills to cover. Like Dalton said, I don't think it's gonna be a pretty game, and I'm not gonna fully watch all the way through. I'll probably watch clips or like certain quarters, or just like
Which
maybe
game
at
is
the end if it's close.
which game is the Nickelodeon game this year? Because I need to watch that one all the way.
I don't know. I don't know if they've announced it yet, but I know the Bills and Patriots are Saturday night, so that might be it. Or it could be the afternoon.
It was an afternoon. It was an afternoon because if they were smart, they would do Eagles Bucks. They would do like last year. It was the Saints Bears, which everyone knew was going to be a terrible game.
So it's probably
had to
the
make it fun
Bengals
somehow.
and Raiders if it's Saturday afternoon.
We'll see. We'll have to maybe see if we can look that up. All right, Eagles at Bucks. Johnny, I'll let you get us started on this one as well. It's Bucks -8.5 is the line we've got for this game.
Yep, I like Bucks straight up. I think the Eagles will have like a sneaky backdoor cover at 8.5. I just feel like the Buccaneers would just kind of lead the entire game, and then near the fourth quarter, they just kind of sleepwalk with like a 10, 14-point lead and then give up a late touchdown is my prediction.
So I'm trying to pull it up.
Oh, by the way, Sunday is the game. It's Niners Cowboys on Nickelodeon.
Really? That's like that's like the best game of the weekend, probably. Yeah. I actually kind of want to watch that one seriously, too. That's a bummer. I enjoyed tweeting all the funny GIFs last year during the Nickelodeon game. All right, Dalton, Eagles, Bucks. What are your predictions here?
I'm taking the Bucks straight up. No brainer on that one. And then, unlike Johnny, I took Bucks -8.5. This game, weather guy here again, it's going to be very windy and very rainy. The weather is not predicted to be good. You're asking Jalen Hurts and the NFL's #1 rushing attack to beat the NFL's #1 rush defense. And I think when it comes to skill and coaching, the Bucks just have the edge in every category. And then when it comes to positional players, the Bucks have the edge in every category. This Eagles defense has been good up front. It's been very bad in pass defense, and Tom Brady is going to pick them apart. He gets back his third passing option, Leonard Fournette. Mike Evans is still there. They have Gronk. I just don't see a way where the Eagles score points early on at all. I'm just not hopeful for the Eagles at all. And I love Hurts, but it's just not a game he's going to win.
Yeah, I think the Bucks are eventually going to miss Godwin and Antonio Brown, but I don't think that is at this point in the playoffs. So what does DraftKings know about this game? And do you know what I'm going to bring up right
now? It's the Gardner Minshew's priced at like 6,500, right?
So that's probably on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's 5,600. He's more expensive than Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Big Ben. All starting quarterbacks this week. He's only 500 cheaper than Jalen Hurts. I'm official. Like, are they expecting such a big blowout that we get Gardner Minshew in the fourth quarter, or are we concerned at all about like the health of Jalen Hurts? Like, I'm just very weirded out by that.
I know he had an ankle problem, but I think they probably just have an algorithm, and it carried over from last week. And Gardner Minshew doing well last week and throwing for some touchdowns. He was just a bigger fantasy scorer. I really don't think it means anything. I hope it doesn't.
So I'm with you, Dalton. I got the Bucks straight up, Bucks to cover. I will say if the Eagles are going to hang around and to make this interesting, I'd be on the lookout for a big Devonta Smith game in this one because that obviously the Bucks like great against the run, like, and that's the Eagles' strength too. But I'm just not sure if the Eagles are going to be able to run it down their throat and run the ball as much as they have been. I think they're going to have to air it out, and if they're going to have to air it out, I think they would look to take away Dallas Goedert because those are the easy underneath stuff that can get Hurts some easy looks and get him going a little bit. I think Devontae Smith could have a nice game, and if the Bucks do not cover, and somehow if they were to not win straight up, like I think Devontae Smith is the guy to watch in this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do you want to play a fun game and name the last time Tom Brady lost in the wild card round and what quarterback it was?
Last time Tom Brady lost in the wild card round, I'm going to say it was the Ravens, and it was Joe Flacco.
You were correct. That's a good one. Oh, congrats. I had that trivia lined up. But yeah, that's exactly it. It was Joe Flacco and the Ravens that went on to play the Niners in the Super Bowl that year.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember the exact game. All right, Niners at Cowboys, as I mentioned, probably the best game of the weekend. And now it's a Nickelodeon game too. So it's just all kinds of fun stuff going on with this game. Niners are 3-point dogs. It's Cowboys -3, but our handy dandy tier list has the Niners a tier above the Cowboys. I'm assuming at least one of you guys, I haven't looked that far over in this doc, is taking the Niners.
Me and Johnny both are taking the Niners and taking the Niners to cover the spread.
Well, they would have to cover the spread.
Yeah, they would.
They're plus.
That makes a lot of sense.
Thanks for that.
Thank you, Dalton.
Niners on the points. Got it.
I want to say that personally, I am a little invested in the Niners because we picked so many of them for our Mitten team, and that was part of the differentiating factor. But with that being said, the Cowboys need their defense to do really well, and the 49ers just match up incredibly well against what the Cowboys have. So they have a good cover corner in Diggs, but the Niners don't throw the ball down the field. Mm-hmm. They throw it short over and over again. And then the Cowboys have a very good defensive end, and the 49ers have Trent Williams. So, I mean, that's like having the Hulk. They can move parts.
I think Trent Williams wasn't his like PFF grade or like some grade. He was like a 98 or like it was just like, okay, this guy's like not a human.
There are people who think he deserves MVP this year just because of how dominant he is. And those matchups hurt a lot. And it's going to require Dak Prescott probably to play against a team that's going to be putting up a lot of points. And sometimes Dak can just force the issue a little too much. I think he probably throws a pick in this game, and that pick probably comes down late game to be critical. 49ers have a better run game as well, or not a better run game, I'm sorry. Utilize their running backs more effectively than the Dallas Cowboys do.
Yeah.
So that's the end of it for me.
And by running backs, we of course mean Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel, who should have running back eligibility on Sleeper next year.
And maybe quarterback. You see that passing through?
Yes, I did see the passing through. Can we get McCole Harbin some running back eligibility for his read option he ran last week?
Or maybe DB eligibility. You know, you played DB in college.
Nope, we're not. We're not doing this. So you went Niners, Johnny. You went Niners too, right? You're taking Niners and the points, as Dalton would say. Niners and the points.
Yep, Niners and Niners +3. I feel like the Cowboys they haven't impressed me offensively, and that's just what's kind of keeping them dragging. I feel like the 49ers just going to take advantage of the opportunity here, and that's kind of why we have them in the threat category.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they really screwed up by blowing that game against the Titans. Number one, because it messed up the AFC, and number two, because they themselves could be seated higher in the NFC. But as long as Jimmy is like that's the concern is Jimmy. Like, does Jimmy have to extend himself? Like, does he have to do a lot to like win them the game? Because I know they came back from 17-3. He had to drive down the field to tie the game, but was like, made a good pass. But Deebo also took it like 30 extra yards. Like, if those guys, if Deebo, if Kittle, if Ayuk, and Jawan Jennings, who like had the game of his life last week, a guy that maybe keep an eye on dynasty wise in the playoffs. if those guys can keep making plays for Jimmy like they did last week and like Debo and Kittle have all season, then I'm feeling pretty good about this. Like you said, they have the offensive line to hold up against the Cowboys, and they get the ball out so quickly. I'm not sure that's going to be too much of a factor. And then on the other side, like you've got a Bosa and you've got Eric Armstead. Like you've got a mean pass rush that's going to make Dak uncomfortable, I think. And I'm with you. Zeke isn't scaring anybody. I'm going to go with the Niners, and I was really not expecting all three of us to go Niners. That was like going to be my upset pick. So that's unfortunate for content, but I like the pick.
I do think we all probably agree this is probably going to be the most competitive game on the slate. That or Cardinals Rams. But these two games, that game, probably going to be the closest, most fun to watch, which probably means one team's going to win by 40. And my prediction is going to be completely wrong.
Speaking of a team that could win by 40, Steelers at Chiefs. The Chiefs are minus 12.5. I mean,
when was the last time a playoff spread was this bad?
I was going to say I wonder what the Bucks versus the Washington football team was last year, but it would seem like there have been years where the NFC East has had a 7-9 team where the line has probably been around this. But
what about the Seahawks versus the Saints in the Marshawn Lattimore or the Marshawn Lynch Quake game?
That was on the road for the Saints, though. So I doubt they were favored by that much. I'm sure they were favored, but it was probably like Saints -4. And to be -4 on the road, that means you'd be whatever, like -8, probably -7 at least at home. But I'm taking the Chiefs. I'm taking them to cover because it's like, how can I do anything else? We just saw them play the Steelers 2-3 weeks ago, day after Christmas, and they didn't have Travis Kelce. Tyreek Hill played like 10 snaps because he just come back from COVID. It was like 20. It was more than that, but he hardly played, and it just didn't matter. I know TJ Watt was banged up in that game. Apparently, his cracked ribs are like a little better now. He played amazing against the Browns and then pretty well the other day as well against the Ravens. But I mean, TJ Watt would have to absolutely take over this game for them to have really any chance, or they're going to have to figure out a way to get the ball in their playmakers' hands in space and let those guys, Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and Najee make big plays, because I don't think Ben's not going to make the big plays for this team.
No, I mean, Chiefs put on their backups against them last time they played. It was 36-10, and that score looks closer than the game really was, in all honesty. I mean, the Chiefs are at home at Arrowhead. Big Ben gets a last hurrah in the playoffs, but I don't see anything.
Big Ben's last hurrah for the third week in a row.
Yeah, seriously.
God.
Yeah, thank you, Jacksonville, for giving us this gift of giving the Chiefs a very easy first-round opponent.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna talk that confident because I don't want to jinx anything. But yeah, I mean,
speaking of jinx it, we haven't talked about Johnny having the Steelers plus 12.5 to cover the spread.
Oh, Johnny, talk to
me. It's just such a big spread. I hate. I've just been burned so many times in the past of anything double-digit spreads. It's not a great probability of covering. I think the Chiefs win, but I think in the fourth quarter they might go to cruise control and probably have a 21-point lead, and then Steelers score a touchdown late, and then it's 14, and then they kick a field goal. I just think
the problem was when the Chiefs went in cruise control against the Steelers 3 weeks ago, it was like 28-3 or something like that.
Yeah,
exactly. But
here's what I'll say. The biggest opponent for the Chiefs this week, as usual, is going to be the Chiefs. But I would think they have a great incentive to come out here and blow the doors off the Steelers, because for the first time in the Mahomes era, they have to play 4 playoff games to win the Super Bowl, and they just played an 17-game regular season, and they've played the most games of anyone in the NFL since 2018. So they've got a lot of mileage, little narrative street here, but I would imagine that there is motivation to come out and smack the Steelers around pretty early.
I think so too, and I think Big Ben was trying to do some reverse good luck by saying,
"Well, did you see?" Oh, okay, go ahead and say Big Ben's quote.
Big Ben came out and said, "The Chiefs are much better than us. We just need to have fun." Is a paraphrase of it, and I think that's Big Ben doing the. I'm not going to say that we're the better team because I'm trying to get any good luck I can and any good karma on my side.
Do you think Ben was cheering for the tie?
So they would miss the playoffs.
And he would go out on top, winning his last
Oh
2
my
games.
God. If I was him, I might have. But
Did you see Mike Tomlin not even watch the end of it?
No.
He said he dozed off.
Well, did you
He
see
fell
what
asleep.
Andy Reid said on I don't know if it was radio or just availability about the Steelers today?
Mm-mm.
He said he said they're playing like a number 1 seed. So we've got some gamesmanship.
Okay.
Some talk, some wild talk from both sides, giving themselves no credit and the other giving the other side a lot of credit.
I like it.
All right, this is probably another one of the most interesting games, and this for me, I think this is the hardest one to read, in my opinion. Cardinals at Rams, Monday Night Football. Feel very poorly for the winner of this game that's going to get stuck in a Sunday noon game and have a day less than anybody else. Neither here nor there. It's Rams -4 because the Rams are at home. I'm not feeling really good about either of these teams, so I don't know which direction to go here. Dalton, I'll let you start us off.
Well, I'm taking the Rams straight up, and I'm taking the Rams -4. And here's the thing. I don't really believe in either of these quarterbacks right now. I think both of them are slumping pretty hard. I'm giving the edge to the Rams because I think defensively they are the better team. I know the Cardinals get J.J. Watt back. I don't know what his condition is going to be like. But without DeAndre Hopkins, Jalen Ramsey can really float around the field and go against the corpse of A.J. Green, Christian Kirk, Rondell Moore. And it doesn't give Kyler Murray a lot of options, not to mention Aaron Donald is going to be breathing down his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the edge comes from for me, plus the home field advantage. If they can actually have fans in the stands, unlike the 49ers game where Matt Stafford couldn't hear him speak. I think this game...
I don't think the Cardinals are bringing as many fans over as the Niners.
Yeah. I think this game is probably going to be uglier than we think it is on paper. I didn't look at the over and under, but I just don't believe these two offenses are coming into the playoffs clicking at all gears like they were the first half of the season. And in the end, I'm giving the defensive edge to the Rams. And that's really about it. I mean, I'm not excited about this pick. I could see it going either way, but I like the Rams here.
All right. So here's what I'll say. Before we started, I said I think it's just like 2 road teams are going to win this weekend. Like, it's just going to happen. I've only picked 1 road team to win. In the NFL, I think the old saying goes whatever you think is going to happen, like whenever you're just so sure. Like, I could not have felt more sure even before I knew any matchups. Like, the Cardinals are just not going to win a playoff game. They're just not. They just look like they're the Walking Dead right now. Whenever you feel that confident about something, usually the opposite happens. So I'm going to ride that. I'm taking the Cardinals. I'm taking, obviously, Cardinals plus the points. Cardinals plus the points on the road.
Plus the points.
In an upset. And here's what I'll say. And this is not going to instill confidence in anyone who wants to make this pick or even myself who just made this pick. If you're Cliff Kingsbury, how do you not unleash a Kyler Murray running game plan this week? Like, read options, just straight up quarterback, like sweeps practically, just like QB power plays, like get him running. Even just like if you're Murray on pass plays, like the second you have a chance to run, I would run. Like I think that's their path to winning is Kyler Murray's legs, quite frankly. And that's what I'm hoping for when I make this pick.
I mean, I would say that's if we were doing a needs help, that would be what the Cardinals need. I agree with that. Steelers versus Raiders or Chiefs versus Raiders AFC Championship was just a question asked to the YouTube. Evan, you wanna take that?
I mean, I would say Chiefs versus Raiders.
Yeah, so would I. But yeah, going back to this game, I don't know, man. If you're Les Snead, do you get fired if you lose this game? Because he has traded their entire future for this team. And I mean, they don't have a first-round pick for like 4 years, I think. And you've leveraged everything on these vets. And if they lose in the wild card round, I just don't know what you say to them.
Yeah. So I think just looking at the matchup between this team, outside of Murray having to play well, the other thing that kind of gives me a little hope is that, you know what, can we just see, like, I know you said JJ Watt's back, we'll see how he looks, but maybe JJ Watt can give him something. maybe that defensive line can crank up the pressure like they have other times this season on Matt Stafford. And they've got some ball hawks, obviously, in that back seven of that defense. Isaiah Simmons, great player, and Budda Baker, one of the better safeties in the NFL. So if you're looking for Matt Stafford turnovers, I think the Cardinals have the goods to make it happen, and that's what I'm hoping for. And as far as the Rams, yeah, I don't know what you do if you don't at least win one round after you went completely all in on the Super Bowl. It would seem like their only choice is to bring everybody back, though. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else you do. Like, I guess you can fire the GM, but like if you bring in a new GM, like, okay, like what's he gonna do? You've already mortgaged the future. Like unless he's gonna go trade for picks, but it's like, okay, they've already traded for all these vets. Like, I don't think trying to trade those guys, turn around and trade those guys would be exactly a helpful endeavor for them.
I can't believe we didn't even talk about this, but I mean, the Rams signed an all-pro safety just recently to play for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, Eric Weddle.
Yeah, Eric Weddle is there. So, that has to give
Last time Eric Weddle played, no one had heard of coronavirus. That's how long it's been since he played in the NFL. 2019.
That's how desperate Les Snead is. He's signing vets who haven't played in 2 seasons.
Johnny, what have you got for this game?
Well, I mean, at least it's primetime Monday night. Don't love to watch it because I think it's just going to be a toss-up. I'm going with the Rams straight up, but I think the Cardinals might cover, so I have Cards +4.
Mm-hmm. I think if I were to hedge just my Cardinals straight up bet, I would definitely take Cardinals +4. I think this feels like a uninspiring but entertaining, like 21-18, like 22, like just a weird, like how do you get to 18? How do you get to 19? I don't know. Some weird crap is going to happen in this game. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Aaron Donald, strip fumble, safety. Who knows?
Very possible. Very possible. All right, guys, anything to add on the playoffs at large? Should we make like a Super Bowl match? I know we're all going to pick the Chiefs to go and win the Super Bowl because we just have to. But should we make just a quick Super Bowl matchup prediction just so we have it on the record before the playoffs start?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I'm going to go with oh, man. See, the comment here says Packers versus Bucks NFC Championship rematch. I kind of think that's what's going to happen, too.
Me too.
Are the Packers really going to lose at home to the Bucks again? I don't think. I think the fact that we're going to have a Lambeau crowd this time around is going to be just the slight game changer that we need for the Packers this time.
So you're going Packers Chiefs.
I'm going with the Allstate Farm. Unless Aaron Rodgers boycotts the Super Bowl, I think we might finally get the Rodgers-Mahomes game.
Well, I'm going Chiefs Bucks. I think that the Bucks have what it takes to repeat. I also, as a fan of the Chiefs, would like to see Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes get over Tom Brady and beat him in the playoffs for once. So I'm taking the Bucks Chiefs.
Johnny?
I'm going to go Packers Chiefs as well.
Chiefs Packers. All right. It's probably going to, like, you know what? You know how weird the NFC is? I came really close to saying Chiefs Niners. But I was like, I can't go that far. That seems like a bridge too far on the Niners.
Yeah. But I would agree that probably was the other. It would go Bucks, Packers, then Niners for me.
Yeah, which is just, I think we've almost guaranteed the Niners to lose like 27-13 against the Cowboys this weekend.
Rest in peace to our Mitten underdog team.
To our Mitten underdog team, to every single one of us picking the Niners to win and obviously cover. Don't forget, win and cover this weekend.
Win and cover. That's the theme of this week.
That's the theme of this week, win and cover. And that is going to do it for us on episode 61 of the Half Point Per Podcast. Give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Half Point Per Pod. We'll be tweeting along with all of the fun playoff action this weekend as it comes. Hoping for a great weekend. And we will talk to you guys. Like I said, we'll be weekly until the Super Bowl comes and goes. I think at some point, don't know when exactly, we're going to do a top 12 for 2022 like we did for 2021 last year. That could even be next week, but that'll be coming up sometime soon. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where you could have seen the NFL team tier list. I'll probably tweet that out as well, so that will exist somewhere else. But also listen to us anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, etc. And we will talk to you all next week.